Hello everyone, this is JC and Ardis. Today we will not do our normal Generation AI show. Instead, we want you to listen to a special episode from our friends at AI for You. This episode breaks down Vanderbilt University's AI Playbook. As you know, Ardis and I often talk about AI off-the-shelf solutions, as well as the journey of building internal AI capabilities. This conversation shows a real case study of how higher education can move beyond off-the-shelf tools and build for their own needs, from governance to adoption to campus-wide use cases. This is a good story for our audience on practical examples of AI in action. So today, please enjoy AI for You, breaking down Vanderbilt's AI Playbook.
Welcome to AI for You. The prompt for this episode is all about preparing for meetings. There are numerous ways you can do this depending on the content of the meeting, who will be in attendance, and what your role is. I've used similar prompts to help role-play meetings with particular individuals, provide insights and different perspectives on challenging topics, and identify gaps in the solutions or opportunities that I'm presenting. AI can be an excellent sounding board for your ideas before presenting them to others. Just remember, you are the ultimate decision maker on what you bring to the table. Rely on your expertise and judgment, and use AI to help inform your talking points. In this episode, we explore how Vanderbilt University built their own open source AI platform called Amplify. We're talking with Allen Karns, Chief AI and Technology Officer at Vanderbilt's Center for Generative AI. Let's jump right in. Well, Allen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Go ahead and start off by telling me a little bit about how you're integrating AI into your work at Vanderbilt.
I'm the Chief AI and Technology Officer here at the Center for Generative AI at Vanderbilt. As part of that, we developed an internal application called Amplify. It's an open source application that allows access to generative AI models across different providers. And so we wrote this platform as a way to help improve process and business across the campus as well as educational outcomes. So my primary role here at Vanderbilt is to maintain that application, to build it out, to add features, and then also to work around campus to show people how to use it.
I talked with a lot of institutions who are looking to integrate AI, and a lot of them will typically start with a lot of the foundation, the models, and they'll figure out how to integrate those. What are some of the advantages of having a custom on-prem model that you can use like this?
I guess I should make one point of clarification here. We are not using on-prem models. We have a cloud application that will host models from any of the major providers, as well as an on-prem model if you would like to pipe that in yourself. We focused more on the chat side of the application, and then furthering upon that, how do we affect business outcomes and how do we affect educational outcomes once we have the application and access to it. So being able to provide broad access across the campus to anybody that wants it is kind of the primary driver of what we're doing.
And does that come with a different pricing structure than if you were to go with like a ChatGPT EDU solution?
Yeah, it does. So we access all of the models through their APIs. And so we have a per token cost. And we found that it comes out, at least in our case, much lower than if we were to license that across the university. The flip side of that is we have to have staff to build the application and maintain the application, but we still feel like it comes out as a net positive. And then the secondary piece of that being, since we built this application, we have access to all of our own internal systems on the back end. So we can start to really create those hooks into our business process to really drive process improvement.
And does that give you like increased access to data and security from, data leaks as well?
So I think by keeping it internal, all of it is running inside of our private cloud infrastructure. We're an AWS shop here primarily. We have some other cloud providers as well, but this application is running inside of AWS. And so I'm able to, incorporate the controls that we use for all of our other cloud environments and apply those same compliance and security measures to our cloud environment where Amplify runs.
And does it take a lot of updates on your end when the models change or when new features and updates come out for the different foundation models?
Yeah, it does. This space is moving so fast. it's certainly hard to keep up. We've got a team of 4 people, but we're also doing, we're a center at a university, so we do research. And so part of what we're doing is research with industry and some government contracts as well. And so it's a balance of trying to do that research and continue to add features as we go along. It's a challenge, but it's one we love. And honestly, it's one we use generative AI to help us with. So as we're writing new features for the application, we turn to the application itself, to help implement and write those features.
Could you share a little bit about your AI journey? We see a lot of people who are very resistant to this, especially in higher ed. What was your take on it?
I kind of jumped in headfirst from the start, and I was super intrigued with it and a little baffled by it. And frankly, a little bit disappointed initially in what it could do, and at least in my realm. I've been friends with Dr. White here on campus, who I collaborate with in the center. And I remember meeting with him and him just being, Alan, this is going to change everything. It's going to change how we do everything in computer science. And I initially thought, oh, he's just kind of crazy. He's just really not crazy, but, he's just super excited about it. And then I remember, over the next 6 months, the more and more I used it and the more that I sat down with him, I really started to see the advantages. And for me, coming from an infrastructure and DevOps background and cloud, a lot of cloud architecture, I realized very early on that he was really good at writing Terraform for me. It was good at writing CloudFormation. He was good at writing Bash scripts, all these things that I did in my day-to-day role. And early on, it for sure wasn't 100% perfect, but neither was I. The opportunity to have a partner in that process and to collaborate with an AI model, to help me troubleshoot and work through building different templates for different types of infrastructure, I really loved it. And I found that it accelerated the pace at which I was able to do my work. I was pretty headlong in, early.
We see a lot of resistance, a lot of challenges in higher ed in the adoption. A lot of times those are, either in leadership or in the, the frontline employees. But a lot of times it does come from the IT and from the technical side. Where do you see the biggest challenges for higher ed institutions regarding integrating AI on the technical end?
I think it takes leadership. It has to have leadership buy-in. If you don't have leadership buy-in, then it's going to be a tough sell no matter what you do. And I think, fortunately, we were in a situation where, the Chancellor Diermeyer here, he really saw the value in it. Dr. White really was able to show him, like, this is what we can do if we jump in early. And this is how we can affect change here on campus. And I think having his support throughout this process as we built the center, as we built out Amplify, has really changed the tone on campus for us. And so we are welcomed with open arms across the institution from an administrative perspective. People want to collaborate with us. From an academic perspective, we have plenty of faculty that are engaging with us to help them think about, how can I incorporate this into my curriculum? Can you help me design a system that can help my students? And so we're seeing some of that start to really play out. And I'm excited about what that means for the next few years and how we can start to really help with the educational process and help students, achieve better outcomes.
So many opportunities and so many things that are going to change. And I think a lot of institutions don't see the opportunities yet. What advice do you have for institutions that haven't started integrating AI?
The biggest thing is just to start. I mean, it's so hard, especially in higher ed. I think we try to get consensus around everything. And, sometimes you just have to pick a small project and go. And so find something that's a low-hanging fruit. Maybe you start with a pilot of 20 licenses, and maybe you go ahead and pay the full fare for it from a provider. And then you just see, can I get a return on this? Did the $20 a month for this person pay off? And then you realize that, or at least I hope you would realize, that you start to see the benefit in doing that. And then as you start to see the benefit, maybe you bring some of that in-house. Maybe you decide it's easier just to continue to pay, for a commercial product. And they're very viable reasons for both. But I think the main thing is just to start, because it's a rapidly evolving landscape. And I don't know that we're going to see stability anytime in the next 3 or 4 years or 5 years. And so I think you just got to be comfortable being uncomfortable and just move forward.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. When you started like looking to build a team to create this solution, what were you looking for? Were you looking for particular skill sets, or were you just using existing resources that you had and repurposing them for the work that they were going to be doing?
I was really lucky. I have one of the best, generative AI minds out there, I think, in Dr. White. And initially it was just the two of us. So we started collaborating in the summer of 23. And then in the fall of 23, I moved into a role within the chancellor's office to expand what we were doing. And I remember we started in early November, and I was having to do double duty. I still had my old job, and I was trying to transition out of it into the new role. And so at night and on the weekends, he and I are emailing and texting and trying different things. And I think what I found was, more than anything, that we were both just really curious people and really just willing to try. When we started hiring, one of the biggest things that we looked for was not whether they were a CS major, not whether their background was, in development, but were they curious? And did they have a skill set that we thought we could build on? And so it is fortunate we're at a great university that's got a top tier program. And so we were able to draw from within that program. We have two graduates, one from the undergrad school and one from the graduate school, that have both been vital members of our team. I've got two more people coming on in the coming weeks. So I'm excited about what we're going to be able to do and how we can, continue to build and partner, with the university going forward.
It's obvious that as you're creating more value, you're getting more resources, it's being recognized, the opportunities that are being afforded because of AI integration. What would you say are some of the major things that are getting attention of leadership?
I think our willingness to collaborate has been the biggest piece of it. And not just our willingness, but our desire to. I've always said this, like, I'm not a super smart guy, but I surround myself with really, really smart people, and I like to listen to them. And I've always found that if a lot of us are in the same room and we have all of this knowledge from our different facets of life, when we assemble that, we can do some really cool things. We've laid this really, really good foundation in Amplify for the university. And now we launched a program on Monday, actually, and we've got applications open for the Staff Fellows program. We've been working with faculty over the last year, and now we thought we're gonna turn it to the staff and see if we can start to solve some problems on the staff side. And we've got 180 applicants, and they've all got these ideas that are phenomenal. We're going to partner with one of Dr. White's graduate courses. And as part of that, they're going to break up into groups, and we're going to have this cohort of staff and students and our team. And we're just going to go around and start to solve some of these long-standing pain points that we've seen around the university. And when you start to do things like that, it's great for the students. They get like real value of this is what it's like in the working world. It's great for us from a research perspective because we can capture all of this process improvement kind of data, and then we can do, publishing on that. And it also gives us a way to go out and, from a research standpoint, say, hey, we've already solved this problem internally. Is there something, you'd like us to do with you and your company to try and solve similar problems for you? So it's really just having come in on the administrative side of the university to be in this kind of middle ground where I'm doing part research, part administrative application development. It's so much fun for me, and to get to work with the students as well.
So what are some of the more interesting or impactful use cases that you've seen since you've started adopting?
Early on, it was a lot of just educational. I taught myself how to do X. So I learned, we had a bunch of researchers reach out about when we were looking for use cases to highlight some work they've done. Some of them were trying to transition from one platform to another and didn't know the code differences. And so they would use, generative AI to kind of help them with that transition of taking their existing code and moving it across. I know this will sound silly, but one of the biggest assistants that we see used across campus is this PowerPoint generator. We have a standard deck that you're supposed to use when you present as Vanderbilt. And so we've taken that deck and we've made an assistant that will go and, if you give it a source document, it will populate a baseline PowerPoint, for you to get started with. We created lots of little tools like that for people to just go consume. And then we started to tack on, hey, do you want to pipe your Outlook into here? Do you want to get a summary of your email for the last 7 days? Do you want to have a calendar assistant? We have a custom function API that you can go build into the platform. You can go in, and if you've got a specific workflow that you need designed, we can work with you to create a custom function that will go do that and pull data from X and dump it into Y. And so we're starting to see some of those use cases really start to germinate and see real, large scale, I hope, business value as we move forward.
That's such an incredible opportunity to be able to do something like that you wouldn't be able to do with a lot of the foundation models. You just can't customize them to solve individual problems like that.
And that was one of our original, when we first started the work, we had conversations with most of the major providers about, hey, what would it look like to license this for 1,000 people? And then we were going to try and figure out how to divvy those licenses up and make it, to where it was, fair to everybody, I guess. We quickly realized that there were going to be more than 1,000 people that wanted it and that it was going to be really expensive. And even if we had done it, we were going to have to find a way to integrate on the back end anyway. The decision to try and build it internally, keep it internally is I think, really, really going to help us move forward. We've got different use cases, but, we're able to reach into databases and make read-only query calls to pull data out and then do action once we've received that data. That's really rich from an operation standpoint to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, and just thinking in my world about the impact on that from, the admissions and marketing side is huge. We know that institutions are going to have to adjust. They're going to have to adapt and evolve along with this technology. Where do you see marketing admissions advancements? What can they start doing now to get themselves ready for how this is going to impact their jobs?
Specifically on the marketing side, becoming familiar. I mean, I still think we see a lot of people out there, they will talk about the deficiencies in the models and how they can't do X or they can't do Y. And what I prefer to advise people is to focus on what they can do and to really lean into that. You can still do all of your post-prompting improvement the same way that you would improve the rough draft that you started with that wasn't the best. You have these tools that can accelerate how quickly you make content, whether that content is communications or whether it is code. It doesn't really matter. They're very good, and the different models are very good at different things. But finding the model that is best for what your role is, and then being willing to experiment with that, learning how to write a good set of instructions for an assistant so that if you've got a repetitive process, if you have a brand voice, you can go in and create that brand voice as a set of instructions and just reuse it and just change the scenario that you're feeding it. I think the biggest piece of it is learning how to use the tools. And before you even get to the automation and trying to build it into your workflow, just learning the baseline, this is how I do X. And then you can start to do the cool stuff. If you don't have an enterprise system like we do, you can cobble together Zapier and kind of all these little tools and start to automate some of your process that has traditionally been cumbersome for you.
We've talked several times, mentioned that, this technology is moving, advancing quickly. Where do you see things going in the next year or two?
Gosh, I don't even know. I've said this before. I feel like the models are going to stabilize at some point. I think we may be there. And then I'll say that and 2 weeks later, something else happens. I don't think much about the model landscape. I just start to think about what can I do with what I have now? And the reality is I can do a lot. I'm not going to say I don't think about where it's going, but I've got so much to do with what's already available that I just start biting off chunks and trying to take care of those. And so I keep an eye on the landscape. I certainly, look at all the tools that are out there. We often see a tool that comes out and try to incorporate some of the, the work that it does into our application. We're going to see people move away from the general chat. Chat is good. I think people love the chat, the chat aspects of the models. But I think you're going to start to see the real business, value start to come out of them, where we're going to integrate. Like if you've got a help desk system, you can integrate directly with that. If you've got an email system, you can tie into that. And starting to make those hooks, whether it's through MCP or through API integrations, all of those things are going to be a lot more ubiquitous and easy to connect to you. And I think once you start to see, people, they're going to start to do some of that in their personal lives, and then they're going to expect to be able to do it in their business life. At least that's the adoption curve that I see, because I think people sometimes get flustered on the enterprise side, on the university side with, well, gosh, I've been able to do this in the public ChatGPT or Anthropic's Claude, for so long. Why can't I do it here? And so some of that innovation drive comes from your employees and how they use it in their personal lives. And I think you'll start to see that start to, move the needle in our world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say all the time, even if, everything froze right now with all of these models, there's so much that we can already do.
Yeah. I don't know if you've listened or read Ethan Mollick. He said that if they didn't get any, if nothing changed from today, you've got 10 years worth of work to do. And I believe that. I think there's easily 10 years worth of work to do.
Absolutely. One of the questions I always end with is, what specific use cases are most useful and helpful to you, either personally or professionally?
So I kind of mentioned it earlier. I am terrible at email. I think like a lot of people, I just get a lot of it. And so I have a process that runs every night at, 3 or 4 in the morning. It goes back and it just tells me not do I have a flaming hot email that's waiting for a response, but do I have anything that I haven't replied to? And so I get this list of things, it's actionable items that I need to take in the morning. I've never been a zero inbox guy, but I do try to reply to everybody. And so I just have a quick summary of, this is what you missed yesterday. And then I have another summary of, here are your calendar events for the day. So those two things kind of help me tee up the day every morning. When I get up and I'm having my coffee, I can kind of look at it and start to map out, how messy the day is going to be before I've had breakfast yet.
And are those all set up through Amplify?
They are, yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, Allen, I can't thank you enough for joining us today and being on the show. If people want to reach out and connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I'm easy to find. I'm allen.karns at vanderbilt.edu, and I'm happy to chat. You can also email Amplify at vanderbilt.edu, and that'll go to the whole team. If you've got questions about the platform, any of us are happy to reply and, set up some time to talk.
Excellent. Well, thanks again. And so happy to have you and the Vanderbilt team really leading the way with, this integration, this technology.
Well, thanks for the invitation, and I'm glad to come. I'd love to come back sometime.
Allen's insights from Vanderbilt demonstrate how strategic thinking about AI implementation can create significant competitive advantages for higher education institutions. The decision to build Amplify internally rather than licensing commercial solutions has given them unprecedented flexibility to create custom integrations and solve specific institutional challenges. What stood out most was Allen's emphasis on hiring for curiosity rather than technical credentials. This approach has enabled Vanderbilt to build a team capable of rapid innovation while staying responsive to campus needs. The fact that they received 180 applications for their staff fellows program shows the pent-up demand for AI solutions across higher education. Allen's advice to start small and be comfortable being uncomfortable resonates with the reality many institutions face. Rather than waiting for perfect solutions or comprehensive strategies, Vanderbilt has embraced experimentation and iteration as core principles. Perhaps more importantly, Allen's focus on current capabilities rather than future possibilities offers a practical framework for any institution. As he notes, there is easily 10 years of work to be done with today's tools. The challenge isn't keeping up with the latest models, but rather finding creative ways to apply existing capabilities to real problems. Please reach out to me with unique ways that you're integrating AI into your professional and personal lives. And as always, blue skies and keep creating. Thanks for listening to AI for You. This show is a proud member of the Enrollify network home to higher ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow, so be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit Enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.